everyone! I'm so glad to see such a big group as the first group after COVID-19. Yes, I'm talking about you. Do you know my name? No. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tate Vik and I'm going to be your guide for today. So, nearly all Armenian names has their translation. Mine translated as give wings. As you see, unfortunately today I forgot my wings, but even without flying, I will try to show you some part of the city. So, first of all, let me introduce you our program. So let me introduce you one of the most symbolic parks exist in Yerevan, dedicated to its anniversary. In 2018, with a huge celebration, we were celebrating 2800th anniversary of foundation of Erebuni fortress, later became to Yerevan. And I must tell you that that was the location where we were making some archaeological excavations during Soviet era, and according to them, the foundation of the city was during 8th century before Christ by Urartian king Argishti I at the western extreme of Ararat well. Previously, this area was a marginal part of English Park. After the construction of the Italy Street in 2002, this part seems to have turned into an isolated island. Here, there were only 6 old trees, damaged benches, and non-functioning fountains. So it took nearly a half year just to create the project and another year and a half to complete the construction. The park was totally reconstructed by Vartanian Family Charity Foundation. So the project was created by one of the brothers, Karen Vartanian. So they paid nearly $5,300,000 American dollars just to be sure that the park must be totally changed. We changed nearly everything, even the soil had been replaced. In front of the entrance, you can see a huge 2 sculptures. The first is a huge lion, a king, and a bull. Both of them, they are represent Urartian kingdom. So this is the bull I was talking about. And here we can see very interesting inscription just under the bull. So the inscription is in Urartian language, and this is one of those places where we can find some information about the foundation of the city. Just under the sculpture, you can see 3 main symbols of Urartu. So here the first is a lion, the second is a bull, and the third one is a sun. So here represent 3 main gods of Urartu. So the first one is Khaldi, the second one is Teisheba, and the third one is Shivini.
Yerevan, im bari քաղաք, Yerevan, im քարի քաղաք, ուր գնամ, միշտ քեզ եմ ես հիշում. Yerevan, im bari քաղաք, Yerevan, im քարի քաղաք, ուր գնամ, միշտ քեզ եմ ես հիշում.
Not so far from the entrance, there is an obelisk where you can find some information about the park, by the way, in 4 languages: Armenian, Russian, English, and French. The green area of the park is 7,500 square meters. There are 369 trees of 70 species in here. Taking into consideration the climate conditions of Armenia, 250 unique and exotic trees such as Fugus sylvatica, Purpurea tricolor, Amamelis ruby glow, Magnolia acuminata, Occidentrum arboreum, and others were carefully selected and imported for planting in this park. The park is surrounded from both sides by a fence of bushes of Livingstrom vulgare species. Irrigation is carried out only at night in order not to disturb visitors. By the way, I want you to pay attention that here, just on the top of the obelisk, there is a huge symbol of eternity and fertility. Bulbulag is the Armenian nickname for the spring water fountains that can be found in literally every yard and street in Yerevan, nearly 1,500 in total, and which have long since become one of the city's trademarks. It is common in Armenia and Armenian-populated Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. Pulpulags are a significant part of the Armenian culture. First pulpulag appeared in the streets of Yerevan in 1920s and over time became extremely popular. Pulpulags were and are often used by people to appoint meetings and by couples are dating locations. The most famous pulpulag, and also one of the first, stands on Republic Square and is called Seven Springs, which means that 7 people can drink from it at the same time. Just because of the winter, unfortunately, we don't have all those fountains turned on. But in summer, you can find here many people that need some kind of adrenaline and take a shower from outside. I will going to share with you some information and some emotions through some pictures. And if you pay attention, from both sides, we have some symbols of the dragon carpet. And in general, if you watch from the top, you can see that the park has the form of the dragon. Okay, dears, last point of the park is the huge general plan of Yerevan created by the main architect Alexander Tamanyan during Soviet era. By the way, right here we have some kind of sculptures created exactly for this park. One of them is a happiness, the second one is carrying, the third one is chastity, and the fourth one is imagination. Let's observe them. In the middle part of the huge map, you can see also a huge river, one of the longest rivers in Armenia, flowing through Yerevan. This is Razdan River. We are going to talk about it just a little bit later. But first, I want to show you this sculpture of a young boy playing with a boat. By the way, the boat is quite interesting because it is creating from Soviet huge magazine. And this boy symbolizing the childhood of Soviet era. The first one is happiness. This one is so romantic, it is imagination. Whoa! Let's help each other carrying. Last one and the hardest one. Let me guess which one is it? Chastity. So the Yerevan City Hall, or the municipality, has been in use since 2004. I must mention that the main architect of this construction is Jim Torosian. It has 5 main floors and a huge tower just behind of the building, 47 meters. I must tell you that when we were building this construction, we were trying to preserve the main culture of the city and try to use pink tuff, which is like the main color of the city. And as you know, probably you have heard that Yerevan called us a pink city. By the way, on the walls you can see also nearly all capitals that we had during our long history, start from Tushpa until Yerevan. The districts of Yerevan refers to administrative divisions of Yerevan. Since the 17th century, without the fortress and nearby villages, Noragyur, Toragyur and Nork, Yerevan was divided into 3 main quarters: Shahar, Demirbulaq, Kond. After Yerevan was taken over by the Russian troops in 1827, many Armenians from northern Persia came to eastern Armenia, including to Yerevan. The city was expanded. In the end of 19th century, Yerevan had 6 districts: Shahar, Kond, Demirbulaq, Toragyur, Norteg, Shenteg, Nork. Meanwhile, nowadays Yerevan has 12 districts: Ajapnyak, Arabkir, Avan, Davtashen, Erebuni, Kanakerzeytun, Gendron, Malatya Sebastia, Nork Marash, Nork, Nubarashen, and Shengavit. Okay, dears, here we are next to the entrance of the Yerevan City History Museum. It is in the same building as the Yerevan City Hall, and I must tell you that initially it was situated in different other locations. It was built in 1931, but was transformed here in 2017. Right next to the entrance, you can see a huge inscription in Urartian language. Unfortunately, this is a copy, but here we can find some information about the foundation of Erebuni Fortress. I must tell you that nearly all archaeological excavations that we were making during Soviet era, we have a huge exposition in the History Museum of Armenia, in Erebuni archaeological site, and must tell you that 2 of the original inscriptions situated there, one of them is in Matenadaran, and the 4th one is in the History Museum of Armenia. So the tradition of Armenian brandy making dates back to 19th century, when a merchant and quite successful winemaker, Narses Tahirian, started a new business, the business of brandy. Brandy is something special for us, even if it has very short life in Armenia. I mean, we start the business of brandy from 19th century. I want to tell you about 2 brandy factories located in Yerevan. One of them you can see just behind of me. So initially, Tahirian started his business right in his own home. I mean, he started, and the first place of brandy making was his own house. Later, he bought the territory of Yerevan Fortress, and the first brandy factory became quite famous. And it is just behind of me again and again. So now this place is quite famous as Yerevan Vodka, Wine, Brandy, Ararat Factory, well known as Noy.
brandy factories connected to each other by Victory Bridge. Construction of the bridge began in 1941. German prisoners of war took part in the construction. The opening of the bridge took place on 25 November 1945. It was the largest wartime engineering structure in Armenia. The bridge was named to honor the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany in Second World War. Sometimes local people call the bridge as the Drunk Bridge. If you wonder why, I will answer easily, because it connects to brandy factories. By the way, under the bridge there is a river Hrazdan. It is considered one of the longest in Armenia. The river originates from Lake Sevan, flowing through Yerevan, flows into Arax River. The length of the river is 140 kilometers, and it plays a huge role in the development of the country's economy. Water from Lake Sevan irrigates the fertile lands of the Ararat Valley.
Okay, dears, so we already discussed the main information about the tradition of brandy in Armenia. So I think that is already the time to see the main territory of the first brandy factory in Armenia. Hello, Hermine, nice to meet you. So,
Me too.
let me introduce you our fantastic guide, Hermine. So she's going to tell us something interesting about brandy factory and tell many secrets and show some interesting places exist right here.
I'm ready. In 591, on this territory, Yerevan fortress was founded. It was a cultural center for the Armenians. Only in 1858, the fortress was partially ruined by the earthquake. In 1877, Armenian merchant Nerses Tayrian bought the territory of Yerevan fortress, and on the very territory he founded this wine and brandy factory. First he started wine production. It was in 1877. 10 years later, in 1887, he started brandy production too. But as Nerses Tayrian had some difficulties with the exportation of ready products, so with the big markets, for realizing his product, he decided to sell the factory to Shustov and Sons company. So in 1898, Nikolai Shustov, who was a Russian, bought the factory from Nerses Tayrian with 50,000 rubles, which was then great money. In 1920, the factory was nationalized and was renamed Yerevan Ararat Brandy Wine Vodka Factory. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the factory was in a poor and abandoned condition, and only in 2002, Armenian businessman Mr. Gagik Tsarukyan bought the factory, started the active reconstructions, which took 2 years, and in 2004, the reopening ceremony of our factory took place. And in 2004, the reopening ceremony of our factory took place already with Noy production. That is, our factory is since 1877, but Noy production is since 2004.
So Hermine, just tell me one thing. Is there any kind of difference between Ararat brandy and Noy brandy?
Of course there is. The difference is that the part which is now near the bridge then was founded by Nikolai Shustov in 1898. Shustov had his brandy cellars there, but as a factory it started its production since 1953. Only in 1998, when after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the factory hadn't worked for some times.
Okay.
So in 1998, a French company, Pernod Ricard, bought that part. They started cognac production, and they bought the name of the brand too, Ararat. That's why we had to create our Noy brand. Now they are called Ararat Factory with Ararat brand. We are called Ararat Factory with Noy brand. That is, then Ararat Factory was a part of this mother factory. That is, the history has started from this land since 1877. These two cannons we have found during the reconstructions of our departments, and they were used during Russian-Persian War. It was in 1827. All the buildings you see on the territory, they are historical, only they were partially reconstructed. Here you see the building, which was then Nikolai Shustov's administrative office. It was built by him in 1898. Now it is used as a museum.
There is one interesting story connected with marketing of Shustov Company. Shustov made an interesting trick to make Armenian brandy popular in Europe. So he would pay students of theater universities and colleges to go to expensive restaurants in all over Europe and order Shustov's brandy. Just imagine the situation when a gentleman with a beautiful lady ordered expensive dishes and asked the waiter to bring them Armenian brandy made by Shustov. And as they had no idea about that kind of brandy, they just answered that unfortunately they don't have it. So the gentleman made a huge scandal and was yelling that they don't have right to be considered as a luxury restaurant. And the owners of these expensive restaurants started to purchase brandy made by Shustov.
Okay, so just tell me one thing. Where are we going now?
Now we are going to our museum, and the building of our museum is one of the historical buildings on the territory of the factory we have. In front you see photos before the reconstructions and after. In the first line you see the photos in 2002 when Mr. Gagik Tsarukyan, our current owner, bought the factory. And after the reconstructions, it was in 2004. As you have already noticed, a big job had been done during these 2 years, and you see the result. The Patrick Noah, who, according to the legend, descending from Ararat mountain after world flood, planted the first vine stock in Ararat Valley. In honor of Noah, now our production is called Noy. We have 3 classifications of brandies. We have ordinary brandies, which are 3 and 5 years old ones, that is, which have minimal ages. We have vintage brandies, which start from 7 up to 25 years old. That is middle ages they have, and we have collection brandies, which are for our factory 30 and 50 years old ones. But we have special nominal blended collection. We have a blended collection in honor of 140th anniversary of our factory. Here you see the number of the brandy spirits which are blended in one bouquet. That is, this is not the age. A special nominal collection in honor of 140th anniversary of our factory. We have one in honor of 135th and 130th anniversaries of our factory. These 3 bottles are considered to be holy bottles because they were on Ararat mountain. I'll ask you to look at the photos, in 2007, in honor of 130th anniversary of our factory, 7 people headed by an alpinist Vartan Vartanyan climbed Ararat mountain, taking with them 8 bottles of Noy Brandies. That is, for each person they took 1 bottle, but together they could drink on Mount Ararat only 5, and the rest 3 they couldn't drink and brought back with them. So here in our museum you may see those 3 bottles. It is already 3 years that we have started whiskey production. We have Old Clark, Magarand and Magingal whiskies. And I want to mention that if brandy we are making from Armenian grapes, whiskey is made from wheats. But they have again the same technology. Here you see our Noy Gucci brandies. We have a new nominal collection in honor of Italian designer Roberto Gucci, who in 2017 with his family visited our factory, and our current owner, Mr. Gagik Zarukyan, keeping one of the oldest traditions of our factory, presented a nominal barrel and a nominal collection in honor of him. Now we have still 3 and 5 years old Noy Gucci brandies because it's a young line for our factory. Very soon we shall have high ages of Noy Gucci brandies. We have started since 2020 vodka production. We have 3 types of vodkas. We have vodka special, vodka luxe and premium. The difference between them is in filtration. That is, we have 1-time filtration, 2 times, 3 times filtrations. And we have a new line of brandies which is called Milesin. Milesin brandies are those brandies which are made from one type of brandy spirit. And that is, we mention here the special year of harvest. On the bottle you see, since 1988, since 1966 and since 1998. In this photo you see the Yerevan fortress. Now our factory is near here, but unfortunately we have one wall and a secret tunnel which have left from the Yerevan fortress. Today you will see and you will enjoy that historical corner of our factory. One of the visit cards of the factory is the fact that the premiere of Woe from Wit by Russian writer Alexander Gribayev was on this historical territory in 1827, and the actors were the Russian soldiers. Even the women's roles were played by young Russian soldiers. The wall under which this premiere was in 1827, now unfortunately we do not have. It was called Dalmahan Wall, which was one of the walls of the Yerevan fortress. So that's why we have created this gorelief in our museum in order to remember about that historical event.
Markar Setrakian was the chief technologist at the Yerevan cognac factory until his last days. He didn't work at the cognac factory for just 1 year, which he spent in exile. He used to keep in his office one of the Yerevan books, and as Charents was forbidden at that time, he was sent to Odessa, where he started working at a local cognac factory and created two cognacs, Ukraine and Odessa. He came back from the exile thanks to Winston Churchill. Nearly everyone knows the story of how in 1945, during the Yalta Conference, Stalin treated Churchill with cognac Dvin. The British Prime Minister liked it so much that on Stalin's order he was subsequently supplied with large batches of cognac on a regular basis. Sometimes later, Churchill complained that the taste of the cognac had changed. Stalin instructed the Minister of Trade of Soviet Union, Anastas Mikoyan, to find out the reason. Mikoyan very fast arrived to Yerevan cognac factory and ordered to call Markar Setrakovich, to which he was told that the chief was in exile for a year. When Stalin learned about this, he ordered Markar Setrakian to return to Yerevan, and the familiar taste of Dvin was restored.
Here you see Shustov stairs. Then the bell, which was the symbol of Shustov and Sons company, was upstairs, and Shustov had a very interesting tradition. Every time when every 100th barrel of wine or brandy was filled, Shustov used to go upstairs and ring the bell himself in order that the whole town knew that the per 100th barrel of his wine or brandy was filled. It was like a tradition by Shustov, but now the bell is in our historical museum of Yerevan. If you wish and have time, then you may visit and see the bell. Here you see Shustov, his four sons, and the head of the company staff. I want to mention that this original photo was presented to Gagik Tsarukyan, to our current owner, by an Armenian grandmother, Anna Khudaverdian, whose father then had been working in the company for more than 50 years. In this photo, you may see Khudaverdian's father too. This is an original photo from 1913. All you see here in this hall we have found during the reconstruction works. Here you see the dead wines which have been brought from our national cellar, about which I have just already told you, where in the last, according to one of the oldest traditions of our factory, 100 bottles of each new wine collection were kept as samples. Here you see a very small part of all the samples that we have now. They are considered to be as dead because the corks maybe then had low quality. During these years, the air passed through the corks inside and the wine was spoiled. Now they are not drinkable anymore. We keep them as a historical heritage. Here is Madeira from 1908, their port wine from 1905. Here you see the small part of all our diplomas, certificates, medals that we have got since 2004 when we have started Noy production. cellar, which was built by Narses Tayrian still in 1877, when he first on this territory founded a wine factory and started wine production. Welcome to our old cellar. One of the oldest traditions of our factory is to seal nominal barrels in honor of famous people who visit our factory, or in honor of the famous events which are somehow connected with the history of our factory. So we keep this old tradition now, and we have every time new and new nominal barrels. For example, we have nominal barrels in honor of 3 presidents of Republic of Armenia. We have many of them, but here we just present the small part of all our nominal barrels. I want to show you some of them. For example, we have nominal barrel in honor of the Prime Minister of Italy, Berlusconi, in honor of the Italian designer Umberto Gucci, with his signature. As I've already mentioned, we have a nominal collection in honor of Gucci too. That is, we produce now Noy Gucci brandies in honor of 140th anniversary of our factory. That is, we just take care for the aging process of these brandy spirits. The owners of the nominal barrels are going to decide when to open and how much to take from this or that barrel. We just take care of for the aging process. We are in our old cellar. Old cellar is since 1877, as I've already mentioned, and it has 4 floors. Now we are on the first floor. We have -2nd, -3rd, and -4th floors. Now we shall go by the elevator to our -3rd floor, 15 meters down the earth, where you will touch the only wall which is left from Yerevan fortress. You will see the secret tunnel, the historical corner of our factory and of Yerevan city, and you will see the old wines, the oldest wines that we have now for tasting. This is our elevator, which is since 1956. This is the historical one we have. Please, it's safe. Now we are on -3rd floor of our old cellar, 15 meters down the earth. Here you see the only wall, historical wall, which is left from Yerevan fortress. It was built with white parts of egg, that is egg white and clay. That's why the specialists say that maybe due to egg whites and clay, the wall is so strong that we have it till now. The big barrels are the biggest ones that the factory has now. Approximately 15 tons we have for each big barrel. And the wooden sticks you see have been put in order to keep the pressure inside the big barrels. In all these big barrels, we are keeping our old collection of wines, Madeira, Malaga, and port wine. This is our catacomb. That is, then each castle, each fortress, each church in Armenia had its secret way out. So our secret tunnel then was the secret way out from the Yerevan fortress. But when Narses Tayrian, the founder of the factory, built the wine and brandy factory on the territory of the Yerevan fortress, the secret tunnel he started to use as a way to bring the grapes from Dalma grape gardens through this tunnel to the factory, as it was hot outside in order not to spoil the grapes. Now the secret tunnel has 2 ways, 2 roads. Straightly goes nowadays to the center of the city, to Sakharov Square, 7 kilometers. To the right goes to the American Embassy now, 9 kilometers. But then instead of the American Embassy, that is in the place of the American Embassy, we had our Dalma grape gardens. From those gardens, the grapes through this tunnel were brought to the factory. Now these two ways are closed. That is, they have been collapsed during these years. We do not use them anymore. We just keep this corner as a historical corner of our factory of Yerevan city. Humidity inside is 100% because the way are closed, there is no ventilation. Besides, we are 15 meters down the earth. The barrels you will see inside, they are empty now, but they are the oldest ones we have. The door that you have seen in our museum is the original door. This is after the reconstructions.
So now we are in the cellars of Ararat Brandy Factory, Noy. So as we are here, we must remember the words of famous Russian writer Maxim Gorky. Once tried this kind of brandy, he said, "It is easier to climb Mount Ararat than to get up from the cellars of Ararat." So Hermine, dear, I'm totally agreed that the whole information you gave us was very interesting. But what about some practicing? What about the tasting?
You know, as our nation is famous for its hospitality, we're not going to leave you without tasting. So follow me.
Okay.
So, Hermina, just tell me one thing. Which is the real way to taste, to enjoy the real smell and taste of brandy?
So brandy is a very sensitive beverage. That's why we Armenians use some special steps before tasting. First, we take the glass in our left hand. Why? Because it's closer to our heart in order to pass the whole energy of your body to the drink. Before drinking, we are going to warm it. Because when we warm, from the temperature of your body, all the aromas, all the flavors are going to be opened. And when you taste, you will feel these two flavors more. That is the flavor of vanilla and chocolate, which are typical mostly to Armenian cognac, and which Armenian cognac has taken from the wood of Armenian oak. We drink it with only the sweets because it's a dessert drink. In this case, for tasting, we have fruits, chocolate. You may use even dried fruits, Armenian ones, coffee, cigar. Only no lemon, no ice, because ice beats its real taste and lemon lessens the taste of Armenian cognac.
Great.
How?
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Yerevan, իմ քարի քաղաք ուր գնամ, միշտ քեզ եմ ես հիշում։ Yerevan, իմ բարի քաղաք, Yerevan, իմ քարի քաղաք ուր գնամ, միշտ քեզ եմ ես հիշում։